Living on the streets is not easy. That's, trying to find somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed is a hard bit. You're always getting moved on. And for me, I like to keep clean. And I did manage that, even if I had to use a river or drive a wash, I'd always manage to do that. But your possessions, you're leaving them around people, this, that and the other, and gradually they begin smaller and smaller because you can't carry them about, and people, you start off with quite a lot, you end up with quite a little. Yeah. All in all, not good. In the mid-70s, I started getting heavily involved with the drug scene. Even in Norwich then, that was not how it is now. I was obviously, to get all the hard drugs, that used to be people would break into chemist shops or doctor surgeries. Eventually, I started mixing with people who were into that sort of scene. And I got involved in all that one. So by 1980, I got sentenced to 3.5 years for burglary of a chemist shop. And that was a bit of a shock. I'd never been in prison. My self-respect was gradually going downhill. Although I've always been a fairly proud person, you start letting things slip. You might think you're looking okay, but other people start to notice. But for me, I always had something in the back of me. I had a good work record, and when I did hit them lows, I'd seek out my old workmates and I'd get back to work again. And that would, for a limited period of time, I would get back on the straight and narrow again, My lowest point with all this, I was living in a flat over Devonshire Street. That would have been 2011, the end of that. I'd just split up from a good long-term relationship with a straight girl, and she was, I knew I'd never find anything like her again. Who wants to come second best for a bag of smack? She couldn't cope with me, and losing that was a really sort of hurt in a way, throwing that away. So I ended up moving into my flat. I was still seeing her for a while, but eventually that all fizzled out. Then my mum had just died, and I just remember sitting there, and every night, this would have been about 2 in the morning, and I'd be sitting there watching the clock. I had 6 cans of Grolsch left in the fridge. I thought, well, the offie don't open till 7:30. I had a jar of just loose change, which would just about got me a refill, and I had hardly any possessions left. And just a bottle of Valium sitting there, and that was me. And I just totally felt, I've been unhappy all my life in a sense, but I just felt totally sad. I couldn't give a shit if I'd have just died there and then, to be honest with you. I knew I had a load of court dates coming up very sort of in May. Got released from prison in September 2012. At that time, I needed email addresses, this, that and the other. I had no ideas about computers, so my probation officer, she suggested I use Under One Roof. St Martin's enabled me to get onto the computers, which gave me something to do every Tuesday. And during this time, I noticed that there was a yoga class every Tuesday dinner time. And keeping fit has always been something I've managed to do, which I'm sure is why I'm still alive now. Even in my darkest days, I still manage to go swimming or do something. So I thought, I'll give it a go. And yeah, that was a lovely eye-opener for me. I enjoyed it, and to this day now, I'm now doing about 7 or 8 classes a week when I can afford it. So that was another gift from St Martin's, and plus that was free there. But at the same time, I was getting more and more into the wildlife. I've always been into bird watching as a kid. At the back of Under One Roof, the river along there, I was spending a lot of my time there. And I was noticing, the local otters and kingfishers. And so the centre decided to lend me a little compact camera to try and get a picture of them. Finally getting a shot of a kingfisher with a 2.5 times zoom compact camera was better for me than having any hit of smack and cocaine I've ever taken in my life. The only advice I would give anybody at a young age who start off down that road is to try and do it, which something I've never been able to do myself, is just say no. And being people pleasing, which is all you're doing when you keep saying yes to stuff, when you even know that's doing you wrong. You think, oh, just this once more and all the rest of it. If only I'd have said no. St Martin's gave me a focus and a purpose. Getting me into photography is probably the single one thing that's probably saved my life. Having something, because I still get majorly depressed and anxiety, and that has followed me all through my life. And when I do, I will pick the camera up and go for a wander out, and normally something will inspire me, and that'll take my mind off all the other mental demons which I know I'll have for the rest of my life. Yeah.